A store chain in the United States is selling a brand new Nintendo Switch 2 for, get this, thousands of dollars more than the retail price. Yes, you heard me right, folks, and I do wish I was kidding. Apparently this retailer heard how much people hated the fact that the Switch 2 was $500, and they decided, why don't we just double down and turn this thing into a mortgage payment? And the crazier part is that real people actually do business with this store chain, and honestly, it shouldn't surprise me anymore. We live in an age where people are financing their DoorDash burritos for 5 easy payments of $7.99. But here's why people are falling for this scam. The pricing strategy is designed to look affordable at first glance. That is, if you are financially illiterate, but really you're just helping Doug Bowser finance his yacht. Okay. And I just made a video about Sony raising the price of their 5-year-old PS5s, and also Nintendo raised the price of the 8-year-old Switch model. So the question is, why would this store chain have the price of the Switch 2 set so astronomically high when gamers are already furious about the cost of playing games in 2025? We're going to answer all that in this video, but first, what's going on, guys? Here it is, folks. The Switch 2 console plus Mario Kart World bundle at good old Rent-A-Center is $44 per week for 62 weeks. They're selling, oh, it's 2,000, brother, oh my god, it's $2,700. It's bro. And the worst part is, look, the same as cash price is $1,300. That's not the same as cash. The cash price is $500. Everyone knows that this console is $499 plus tax. So they're claiming the same as tax, but okay, hang on. This can't be real. Let's change this to bi-weekly. So 31 payments of $88 bi-weekly. It's still $2,700. What about monthly? Holy shit. Boys, do you want to rent a Switch 2 for $191 a month? After 2 months, you pretty much could have bought it. What is going on? What is happening? How is this even a thing? By the way, that's not my zip code, so I'm not doxing myself, okay? But look at this. When I update the zip code to a few hours outside of New York City, the price goes up. It goes up. I had the zip code set to New York, like Queens, right? Because I live in Queens. That wasn't my zip code. But if you go outside of a major city, the price goes up, and this is a discount. What is happening? How is this a thing? Do you want to spend $151 for 19 months? 19 months, over a year and a half. What is going on here? Wait a minute. Let's change it to Los Angeles, California. Oh, okay. In Los Angeles, California, you can get a really good deal on a Switch 2. It's only $2,300 if you decide to go through Rent-A-Center. My first car was like $1,800, maybe it was 22. It was somewhere around the $2,000 mark. Okay, so the fact that Rent-A-Center is trying to get you to, in New York, mind you, pay $44 at a time, and they're just hoping that you can't do math. They're just, oh, if this dude doesn't know what he's doing, we're gonna get him for a whole ass car, basically. You want to know what my favorite part about this is? Look at this. It says deal. It says deal. They're trying to convince you that you're actually getting a good deal by spending $2,727 on a $500 console. Absolute shameless. The absolute gaslighting going on here is amazing. Now I know what you're saying, Omniarch, this is clearly, you clickbaited us. Clearly this is not real, or surely, okay, that's what they're asking for it, but like, you know, people aren't actually paying for it at that price, right? Surely that's not happening. And look, I can't prove to you that they are actually renting out Switch 2 models for this price point, but what I can tell you is that Rent-A-Center is part of Upbound Group, which is a publicly traded company, and you can actually look at their financial statements, and like, sure, since the late 90s they're up 1,700%. okay, in the last 5 years since the pandemic they've fallen about 20%. I think that makes sense. You know, it makes sense that that would be their peak as of late, right? But their most recent Q2 earnings call from the beginning of this month, from the beginning of August 2025, 2025 reported a stronger quarter with a 7.5% increase in revenue year over year, driven by the growth in the AEA and Bridget segments. But Rent-A-Center experienced a 4% decline in same-store sales, which apparently was part of their strategic decision making from the previous year. So okay, Rent-A-Center has seen better days, but my point here is that this is a perfectly legitimate company that people actually use. People go to Rent-A-Center and they buy things or they rent things. And if we look at that recent Q2 earnings report, you can see that yes, the year over year revenue for Rent-A-Center is down, but they're profitable is my point. Okay, they are making a profit off of this type of strategy, and this switch to console is a perfect example how. They have extremely high markups, they have rental fees, they have predatory like rent to own agreements for people, and sure, their lease agreements might be flexible if you're an individual with like low or no credit, but the price is significantly higher than if you were to just purchase the items outright elsewhere. And so Rent-A-Center is literally preying on the poor people, and they are preying on the financially illiterate people who have they don't have any idea if this is a good deal or not. And like, look, if you go to Rent-A-Center's homepage, the first thing there is the Switch 2. Like, they're pushing this thing as if this is like a big deal. They're proud of their price for the Switch 2. So like, if people are spending $29 a week on a sofa love seat combo, then it's not impossible to imagine that there's a few folks out there that are currently spending $44 a week on a Switch 2 console with Mario Kart. At least Mario Kart World is bundled, unless the first guy who rented it just stole the code out of the box or something. I don't know. And if you still don't believe me that this is a legitimate company that people do business with, here's a post on r/frugal from a user asking, is Rent-A-Center too good to be true? I'm in a tight position right now because of COVID and my laptop went kaput. I'm in need of a new one, but can't afford to outright purchase unless it's from a pawn shop, and I just have no experience there, so wouldn't even know red flags if there were any. So this person legit went to Rent-A-Center's website and they can't figure out if the deals are too good to be true, right? And like, look, no offense to this person, I don't know what exactly they were looking at. Maybe the specific laptop they were looking at was like actually could have been a good deal. I don't know, right? I have no idea. This is 5 years ago. The post is archived. Like, it is what it is. But my point is that if you go to this website and you look at literally anything and you can't immediately decide like, okay, yeah, that's a scam, you're the person that they're digging their claws into. Okay, so people genuinely use this service or this store, or they go to these places to actually rent or buy these things. The part that gets me the most, right, is that the Switch 2 is a luxury item. Literally nobody needs a Switch 2. It is a completely optional purchase. You could make the argument that like you need to rent temporarily rent a washing machine or something because you live 20 miles from the nearest laundromat and like your car's a piece of shit, and like you know, maybe you could I could kind of see that, like you're tired of washing them in the tub or whatever. But a Switch 2, absolutely nobody should be getting a Switch 2 if you can't afford a Switch 2, especially not for $2,700. But folks, it gets even more unbelievable than this, because one argument that you could make is like, okay, the Switch 2 is a brand new console. It's only been out a couple of months and it might be really hard to get, so maybe you'll pay a premium to just get it right now, right? That's not the case. Lately, there's been tons of posts on Reddit of people saying that Switch 2s are already in stock pretty much everywhere. This user shows what I suspect is multiple different locations because these cabinets are all different. You can see the color of the floor and the color of this pricing strip right here. This is clearly like, I think Target or something. And then we've got this looks like maybe a Walmart. Okay, and then this, I mean, maybe this is like a Best Buy. I'm kind of guessing here, right? Or maybe these are 2 different or 3 different Target locations or something. All of them have these in stock. Every Walmart and Target they've been to has multiple in stock. This post was at the beginning of July. This person went to their Target and they had multiple Switch 2s in stock. This photo was from July 18th. Plenty of Switches in stock at their local Best Buy. And just from me personally, okay, I've bought 2 Switch 2s from my local Best Buy, one for me, one for my buddy who was at work when they became available. I picked one up for him. Also, again, I live in New York City. You just go to the Nintendo store in Manhattan, they've always got a bunch. I've never not seen one there. So the Switch 2 is readily available pretty much everywhere. And in 2025, we have so many buy now, pay later options with like Klarna, Affirm, Apple Pay Later, or whatever that one's called. If that still exists, I have no idea. And half of these retailers are trying to offer you a credit card at checkout. You ever, I mean, they have got signs. I can't go to Bath and Body Works or freaking Kohl's without them trying to get me to sign up for a credit card. So like, there are so many other ways of getting a Switch 2. And by the way, I don't recommend that you finance a Switch 2 in any capacity, right? I'm not trying to tell you to do that, but like, it's probably better to finance it on a credit card and pay it off over a couple of months than it is to spend $2,700 on a Switch 2, bro. You have to be so financially to actually have to resort to this. And the worst part is that this is just going to you even more. And on the topic of Switch 2 units being available everywhere, I know some people might be watching this video and they're thinking, wow, like that's actually kind of surprising, right? Like the Switch 2, it's brand new, there's all this hype around the console. Like if these units are in stock everywhere, does that mean that the demand is really low? Like is no one buying these things? And the answer is people are still buying the Switch 2, and I'm going to explain in just a minute why that's the case and why the abundance of units in stock does not mean that there's no demand for the console. It's actually a really simple concept. I'll explain that in just a second, but let's take a look at the latest Japan sales data. We haven't looked at this in a couple of weeks. Apparently Japan had some sort of holiday or something last week. There was some reason why Famitsu did not report the sales last week, so now we get 2 weeks worth of sales here, and we can actually see, if we scroll down, that the Switch 2 sold 179,000 units in the last 2 weeks. So that is on average 83,000 units per week. Now, again, we don't have the exact numbers. It could be that it sold, 100,000 one week and 79,000 the next week. We don't know the exact breakdown, but on average, it's about 83,000 per week, which is really good. It's possible that the supply of units in Japan has finally caught up to the demand of units in Japan, right? Like they finally were able to produce more of them, and now people who want to buy them can actually get their hands on it, right? In fact, in Japan, according to Famitsu, they've sold over 2 million units of the Switch 2 already, and in the Switch 1's first year they sold 3,800,000. So the Switch 2 is already over 50% of the way to the entire first year sales of the Switch 1 in just 11 weeks. 41 more weeks of the Switch 2 to make up the other 45% of the Switch 1's first year sale. So if I were a betting man, I would say the Switch 2's first year, it will probably outsell the Switch 1. Obviously it's too early to say. The trajectory looks pretty good, but you also have to remember that half of the sales came from the first week, right? So keep that in mind. But even still, the Switch 2 is selling at a pretty healthy rate here, and we're going into holiday season, so we'll have to see how it goes at that point. Now, I already know what people are going to comment, right? They're going to say, oh well, it's only selling in Japan because it's cheaper in Japan, but that's actually not true either. If we take a look at Nintendo's most recent financial report, these are official numbers from Nintendo, we can see that the Switch 2 hardware sales by region, the Americas was actually number 1 in terms of the most units sold from any given region, right? In fact, Japan is actually number 3 in red here. We have over 2 million units were sold in the Americas, 1.3 million units sold in Europe, and 1.27 million units sold in Japan. So out of the 4 regions that they track, Japan is in 3rd place. So it's not the case that these are only selling in Japan objectively. I mean, that's just the data. Now, that was for the first launch, right? It could be the case that since then sales have fallen off in the Americas and they haven't fallen off in Japan. That's totally possible, but that's speculation. We don't actually have the numbers. And one of the things that people always like to counter that with is, okay, well, there's way more people in the Americas, there's just a higher population, so obviously it's going to sell more. And the answer is yes, that is correct, right? But I mean, there's really no argument there, right? The ratio of sales to population is off, so what? So they're selling too many units in Japan? Or businesses don't really care about that, right? Businesses care about one thing: are they selling units, and are those units making money, right? That's literally just the end of the story. So we can do these sort of numerical gymnastics to make it look like, oh well, actually it should be selling better, oh my god, right? But no, total units is the number that matters. That's all anyone cares about, right? It's total units. Okay, the more people that have the console, the more people can buy games, the more people who can buy microtransactions or whatever's on the eShop, or the AI anime cat girl block breaker 2000, like whatever the slop is that's on the eShop these days, right? Anyway, just to touch on the point that I made earlier, a stocked inventory of Switch 2s does not mean people aren't buying the consoles. The reason that people think this is because we've been so trained by the pandemic and the supply chain shortages, we've been trained to think that if there's something available, then there must not be people buying it, because otherwise what is the excuse, right? Like what else could it be? Well, the answer is the supply of the units is meeting or exceeding the demand. That doesn't mean that the demand is low. It means that the supply is sufficient or high. I mean, how many of you have worked in retail, right? And there's pencils on the shelf, and like people buy a bunch of the pencils, okay, and then you just go to the back because there's more pencils and you put them on the shelf, right? Like nobody looks at a shelf that's fully stocked with pencils and says, oh my god, pencils fell off, bro, pencils are so cooked, bro, oh my god, nobody's buying pencils, oh, it's over for pencils, bro. Like no, they put more out because they have, what are you talking about? People forget about the whole supply side of the formula when we're talking about this, because it's more, you get more clicks on the internet when you say, oh my god, demand is low, when really it's like, no, supply could also just be higher, right? And of course we don't actually know, and if there is an article that comes out or a quarterly report or whatever that comes out that says, hey, demand in the Americas has crashed, right? I'm gonna make a video about it. Of course I'm gonna make a video, that's gonna get views, of course I am, right? But like, I'm not in the business of telling you what you want to hear. I'm in the business of telling you what's happening, okay? Think about the Wii, think about the PlayStation 2. At launch, maybe it was hard to get these units, but after launch, it actually wasn't that hard, right? And remember, the Wii launched during holiday season, so it was like really hard to get your hands on one. And yo, shout out to my dad, because he got me one that Christmas and it came in so clutch, bro. Oh my god, W dad, let's be honest, W dad for sure, right? But like for the majority of the Wii's lifespan and the majority of the PS2's lifespan, you just go into the store and buy it because it's just there, it's on the shelf. And did anyone say, oh man, demand for the PS2 is so low right now because the shelves are stocked? It's like, no, they just have them in stock. Like, what are you talking about? Just because they're on the shelf doesn't mean that they're not selling, right? Like, hopefully, I know this might be like hard to comprehend if you don't really understand business, but like the idea is to have enough product available for everyone who wants to buy one to buy one. Like that's how you make the most amount of money, and that's why Nintendo waited to release the Switch 2 for as long as they did. They literally said that they were going to have a tremendous amount of supply because they expected high demand because the Switch 1 sold so well. So what you're seeing right here is not like, oh my god, the Switch 2 is failing. No, what you're seeing here is planning, the business just knowing what they're doing, right? Having units available for people, like impulse purchases. I guarantee you there are soccer moms out there who don't even know the Switch 2 came out, and they're only going into Target because little Jimmy needs a new pair of shorts for practice this weekend, and they're gonna walk by and see the Switch 2 and think, oh well, his birthday's in 3 weeks, maybe I'll pick one up. Like that's what real world people are doing. That's what normal people are doing, right? They're not thinking about Nintendo sale. Who gives a fuck about it? Only weirdos like you and I think about Nintendo unit sales. No one actually, like real people don't actually give a shit about this, let's be real, okay? Anyway, all of that to say that the Switch 2, by all observable metrics, is still selling really well at the current price point of whatever it is in your region, whether it's 500 in the US or whatever they're selling it for in Japan. It is selling well. It also seems like it is in stock everywhere to meet whatever the demand might be. So there is literally no reason for Rent a Center to be charging you $44 a week or $191 a month for a Switch 2 console when you can go literally anywhere and get it for the price that it already is. Shame on you, Rent a Center, for preying on poor people with bad credit, and for the financially illiterate. Okay guys, if you made it to the end of the video, drop a thumbs up, really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing if you want more gaming news.